Hey guys, it's Monday. Welcome to another edition of Rockin' H Woodshop. Today we're going to continue with the build on the table saw cabinetry by building the drawers. And I've got a special joint that I like to do on cabinetry that's in the shop just to help save time but still add strength and ease of install. So stay with us, don't go anywhere. I'll show you how to do that right now. Alright guys, now it's time to start building the drawers. And there's going to be 3 of them. One's going to be a 10-inch drawer down here, and then I'm going to have 2 8s right above it. So I've got a scrap sheet of plywood here that I'm just taking measurements on, and I wrote those 3 sizes down for those drawers. Now, whenever you make measurements for the drawer width itself, you want to go ahead and bring your drawer slides in, put them both side by side on one end, and then just measure from the side of your cabinet to the slide and get it as close as possible. You don't want to press your slides together because there's some leeway here and there for those slides for the accuracy of your drawer. So just let them sit like normal, don't press them together, and then just measure from the side to the slide and then write that down, and that's got to be pretty precise. You got a little bit of leeway, but not much. Guys, when it comes to joinery of drawers, there are many different routes that you can go. I'm just going to talk about a few, and it's going to be real quick. You have a butt joint, 2 boards joining up to one another that's pinned. You have a rabbet joint that's still 2 boards joining up to one another and pinned, but there's a slight cutout to increase glue surface area. Very common. You also have sliding dovetails that are on the sides that are kind of a half pin and a half tail. They are also pinned, but it's a very decorative statement that you can use on decorative furniture. Don't recommend it for cabinetry for kitchen or even shop furniture. You also have dovetails that are made on a jig using a router. It's very easy to achieve if you have a nice setup. But for those of you that don't have the money for a jig, don't have a real nice setup like that, I'm going to show you something that's really easy and still very strong, and it's a lock joint. Basically, there is a tongue on either end of the front that is accepted in a groove on the sides. Now, if you have a table saw and a dado blade, this is really easy to do. And even if you don't have a dado blade, you can still do it with a singular blade just by moving the fence to adjust the depth. So that's what we're going to do today. Alright, so as you guys can see, I've got my pieces all batch cutted to the size that they're going to need to be. And that's all the way down the cabinetry. So I'm not going to make the drawers for these cavities up here because they're not going to be using those that hardware heavy-duty ball-bearing drawer slides. So I recommend batch cutting all your pieces and then start with your joinery after that. Okay, now when it comes to batch cutting your dados and your grooves for the bottoms, I recommend starting with that before you do your lock joinery or dovetail joints or anything like that. That will help you to determine the insides of your drawers, and that way you won't get anything confused when you go to make your lock joints or your dovetails for the fronts and sides. So I've stuck my dado blade stack in here. I've determined the appropriate size for the particular plywood that I'm using this jig here. And if you want to see what this jig is all about, you can go to my episode on jigs, of course, and see how it's made. But with the plywood that I've got, I've determined the amount that I need to put in here, and we're just going to make a test cut, see how it fits, and if that's good, then we'll start batch cutting for the dados to accept the backs. All right, now to get that fit that we want, we set the blade at a 1/4 inch high. I'm going to put the back kind of inset from the sides about a 1/4 of an inch. So we'll go ahead and batch cut all of our sides. All right, now we're ready to make the groove on all the pieces for each drawer for the bottom. And this is going to be front, back, side, and side. Now, this 1/4 inch space that I left on the back, that's just an arbitrary number that I like to use because I'm trying to maximize as much of the drawer space as I possibly can. The bottom, however, because there's going to be a lot of weight in this drawer, I'm going to set the fence for 3/8 of an inch and give myself a little bit more of a shelf that this thing can sit on, a little bit thicker shelf. I've already set up my dado set for a 1/2 inch piece of plywood. I've made a test cut, it fits good. So now let's batch cut. Okay, one quick thing that I forgot to mention, and this is very important. Once you establish the back, you need to make sure that whenever you put the bottom in, that you mirror the opposing side to match it. So once I run the groove on this side for the bottom, I need to take my opposing side, flip it like it would be if it was going to be together, and determine where the bottom is going to be on that one and run it through. If you just do this willy-nilly and you just run them through, you could mess up and have a bottom at the top when you shouldn't. All right, moment you guys have all been waiting for. It's time to start making the lock joints. Now, the easiest way to do this, put a 1/4 inch dado stack, maybe even a little bit wider if you want to bury it inside your sacrificial fence, because the tongue is only going to be 1/4 inch deep. You need to set your blade at a 1/2 inch high, because what we're going to do is start with the fronts. We're going to make the tongue on the fronts on either end. You're going to take a 1/2 inch chunk out of this and leave a 1/4 inch tongue at the end. Now, to make sure that it all fits, I suggest making test cuts. I've already done this, and I have determined where it needs to be. So we're going to make the tongues first, run it through both sides, and I'll show you what we're left with. All right, this is the 1/2 inch deep groove that we just took out to make the actual rabbet for the tongue. This is the groove for the bottom. You can see the tongue right there. That's a 1/4 inch wide. So make sure when you do this, because I almost made this mistake, you need to cut the groove out of the actual front, the outside part of the drawer, not the inside. I had this facing down, and that would have been a bad mistake. I have one of these extra, so I can't mess up. So make sure that the actual outside of the drawer is facing down when you cut the chunk out. Okay, now it's time to cut the grooves to accept the tongue. This is going to be done in all the sides. What you do is you set your fence up for a 1/2 inch distance from the blade, lower your blade to a 1/4 inch high, make sure that it's a 1/4 inch setting for your dado stack, then run it through and make any adjustments necessary. And then once you have everything set, height is right for the depth of the tongue, distance from your fence is right, then you've got it to where you can go ahead and batch cut all your sides. All right, I've done a dry fit of the drawer, at least for one of them, and everything fits perfect. So we're gonna start gluing up everything. So I hope you guys enjoy. Here we go. All right, there you have it. Drawers assembled and glued. Now, moment of truth. Let's check for square. 26 7/8. Woo! 26 7/8. Perfectly square. And has a joint that is so easy to make and so quick to make. I can make this in half the time that I could with dovetails, even with my jig. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and leave me any comments, questions, whatever, and I will answer them as quick as I can. And don't forget to check me out on my social media sites, as well as anything else that you can do to find Rockin' H Woodshop. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you next week with all these installed. Take care. It is Monday. I'm sure you all know it's ready for We'll saw cabinetry build by building some that are going to go in the entire thing.